so much, and thanks to everyone who's joining the call today. We're looking forward to showing you Sage Enterprise Intelligence, the data analysis and reporting solution for Sage. First things first, I'll introduce myself and my colleague who are here on the call today. My name is Olivia Brown, and I'm the Director of Business Development for the SEI solution in North America, and I'm accompanied by my colleague Jasdeep, who is our pre-sales engineer, and he'll be getting into a product demonstration a little later on in today's webcast. As far as an agenda, I'd like to talk to you about some of the challenges perhaps companies like yourselves might be experiencing today when it comes to accessing, analyzing, and reporting on your information. We'll get into a product overview and address what SEI is all about. I'll pass it over to Jazz. We'll get into a couple of final slides at the end, and then we'll leave some time for Q&A. We'll open up the lines, and you can ask any questions that you might have throughout the presentation. So again, just want to thank everyone very much for attending the session today, and we'll kick things off with talking a little bit about why you might be looking for an alternative to what you're doing today for data analysis and reporting, some of the challenges you might be facing today in regards to that. Starting with the lack of insight. So as organizations grow and as you kind of move forward in your organization, you might notice that you don't just have one source of data that you're using to run your company. You don't have one ERP system or one system, sorry, that you're using to run your company. Oftentimes, organizations are continuously adding on things like add-ons. You might have, legacy systems, and your data is kind of sparsed out all over the place, and it's really hard to get a clear view of what's going on within your organization by bringing in all of that data together. Data volumes as well are always growing, so being able to manage the volumes of data, run reports that have really good performance, so you're not waiting 30 minutes for answers to your questions when it comes to information. Solution complexities, a lot of the time pulling out that information from not only your ERP system but other systems as well, it's oftentimes something more technical, not as easy for an end user to do. So just covering off, some of those challenges as far as, the data goes. When we talk about Sage Enterprise Intelligence, and of course, we're really striving to solve some of those challenges that you might be having, SEI, it's all about enabling our customers to access, analyze on information, no matter where it's coming from, in real time, allowing you to be self-sufficient with your data, giving yourselves the answers you need and your colleagues the answers they need to make decisions to better do their jobs. At the end of the day, that's really what it's all about. There are several benefits you can attain by using SEI, including gaining visibility and insight, empowering your users, collaboration, planning for the future, last but not least, achieving quick ROI. So I'll get into those points in a little bit more detail so that you can kind of get an understanding of what you're about to see. And then of course, I'll pass it over to Jazz for the demo. When we talk about gaining visibility and insight, and I mentioned it at the beginning of this call, how do you get a clear picture of everything that's going on in your organization if you have multiple different systems running? That's something that SEI will allow you to do. Again, it says, manage data from disparate systems. We can actually bring in all of your data, store it within a data warehouse, even consolidate it through our Cube technology, and allow you to run reports on that consolidated information. Again, giving you the enterprise-wide view of what's going on. Something that's really interesting and sets us apart from other BI solutions out there is the fact that we deliver multiple different platforms that you can use to do your reporting. So you're not limited just to an Excel. Of course, we know that there's a lot of Excel lovers out there, so we do offer that option, but you're not limited to just that. You do have a web option as well that's fully HTML5 and accessible from your mobile device. So providing you the flexibility to report off of your information in a platform that you feel most comfortable with. Again, going back to accessing multiple different sources of information, there are a couple of tools that SEI provides that enables you to do that. Not only sources outside of Sage, but also sources within Sage. So we know that in the Sage 100 world, there are a lot of organizations who have a multi-database, multi-company setup within their Sage 100. one of the challenges we hear from customers using other tools to try to get consolidated data is that that's sometimes very hard to do, and there's a lot of manual effort involved. SEI actually provides the ability to consolidate all of your environments together, databases, companies, right out of the box, so that you can run those reports, again, getting the full picture of all of your companies, but also filtering on the companies that you specifically want to see. So something that's delivered from day one that'll really help you, again, get that full picture. Something else that SEI will allow you to do when we talk about data management is pull in systems that are not only just on-prem, but also if you have something in the cloud, for example, a Salesforce, and you want to consolidate with your on-premise data, you know, we could really get access to the data pretty much wherever it is. So I did want to just mention that, whether it's cloud, on-prem, what have you, we can access it and pull it all together. Empowering your users is also very important. Like I mentioned previously, a lot of the time, you know, being able to pull information, you need to rely maybe on your IT department to make changes to some of the reports that you're utilizing. SEI really prides itself on being very user-friendly, and you'll see that within the demo when Jazz goes to show you how easy it is to create new reports, modify existing reports. Anyone can do it. Any kind of end user, obviously, if you're more technical as well and want to get into the back end stuff, it's also very easy to make changes on the back end as well. So again, decreasing that reliance on the IT department. Dragging and dropping things around, you'll see it's pretty straightforward. When we talk about secure collaboration, for us right now in Canada, super important. We're all working remotely. We need to be able to share information quickly on the fly with our colleagues or with people outside of the organization. SEI provides several collaboration tools to enable you to do just that. We have a distribution module that will allow you to schedule reports to be sent out automatically to any number of users within your organization and even outside of your organization. So the information is getting into the hands of the right people, and of course, it's all based on security. Something else that the distribution will allow you to do is actually set up conditions that will allow you to identify, or that the system will let you know of, very important changes that are happening within your organization so that you can take immediate action. For example, if you want to set up a condition based on your inventory levels, if my inventory falls below X amount, send me an email. Let me know so I could, you know, contact the appropriate teams and let them know, you know, what to do. That's something you can use the distribution module for as well. So again, collaboration, timely collaboration, making sure you're sharing the information with the right people. Planning for the future, again, in today's day and age, in the COVID times, very important to be able to plan ahead, although obviously things can't always be anticipated. But as far as planning for the future goes, SEI does provide the ability to actually enter budgets and produce forecasts within the solution. This is actually something else that sets us apart from other BIs, is that we have the ability to actually enter data into the system. So if you do want to create, you know, some basic budgets and forecasts based on, you know, last year, do some simplified calculations, you can actually use SEI to do that as well. We have that for sales, finance, whatever it is you want to forecast on, you have that ability within SEI. Probably most importantly is the ROI that you can attain by using SEI. We deliver a lot out of the box for the different ERPs that we're available for. In this specific case, we're talking about Sage 100. So as far as reports that you can actually get started with right away when you implement SEI, there's a lot there on the different areas of Sage 100. Sales, I think we have Project Job as well, finance, of course. So a lot there to get you going. Again, you're not starting from scratch, although you can very easily create new reports and modify existing reports on your own. There is a really good base starting point that you can get going with right out of the gate. In addition to the reports that we offer specifically for Sage 100, we also have what's called our universal data models. And essentially what these are a pre-built set of KPIs, dashboards, and reports based on different areas of your business. Again, It's not the same as the templates that are specific to Sage 100 because these universal data models can be used across multiple different systems. They work the same way, it's the same output for pretty much any system that you want to bring in, which is very interesting when, again, you're talking about multiple different sources of data that you might be needing to access. Our universal data model for finance is very, very interesting. There's a lot there. You have your standard financial reports, but it goes beyond that with all the kind of industry standard calculations that are pre-done for you, KPIs, dashboards, you name it. In the sales side, we have some very interesting dashboards as well as a sales forecasting module as well. In the CRM, you have, things like opportunities, leads that you can track. Even if you're using, an outside CRM system like Salesforce as an example, you can bring that in and run the reports from the CRM universal data model on that data as well. I'm going to pass it over now to Jasdeep. So hopefully you've got a good idea so far about what SEI is all about. I'm going to pass it over to Jaz. He'll get into the demo, and then I'll be back with you all in just a bit.
Great, thanks, Olivia. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And please let me know when you can see it.
We're good, Jaz.
Perfect, thanks. All right, so thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Jasdeep and I am pre-sales engineer for Sage Enterprise Intelligence. And I will be walking you through the things that Olivia talked about in the presentation. And of course, show you a lot more features, and we will take a few moments at the end of the session to take some of your questions as well. So please feel free to write down your questions and then we will have a look at them later. All right, so let's begin. And the first thing that we'll be looking at is the web application of Sage Enterprise Intelligence. I have opened this application on a web browser, Google Chrome. You can also use it in other web browsers. Most of them support HTML5, so should be good. And it's also available in multiple languages as well. And I'm logging in as an admin today, since that will give me all the access to all the different reports, graphs, and charts I would like to show you. However, each SEI user can have a unique username and password, and there are different security settings that can be tied to each login. And as we then log in, we will see exactly what we have been given the rights to have access to. So now I'll take a moment to explain you the layout here a little bit. On the left-hand side of the screen, we have Command Center, and it consists of 4 different tabs here. The first one is the data models and views, which consist of 2 sets of templates. Now, the first template that we will be looking at is Sage 100 template, which is provided to you out of the box, which consists of all the modules which already exist in Sage 100, and they further contain all these reports which come along with these data models. So you have a good starting point from the day one when it comes to reporting on your data. So we have sales orders, accounts payable, receivable, general ledger, purchase order, and all of these modules right here. And then on top of that, we also have the universal data model, which comes for finance, sales, CRM, inventory. Depending on your needs, we have these templates for you. And they again come with their own set of industry standard reports and KPIs. Now, the difference between the standard template for Sage 100 and the universal data model is what Olivia already mentioned in the presentation, is that universal data model will allow you to connect to multiple data sources. So you could bring in, of course, the data from Sage 100, but it could also be your data staying in a CRM software, for example, Salesforce, which is in cloud, or anything on premises, any third-party software, any of the reports sitting in Excel. All of them can be brought in and be reported with the help of the universal data model. All right, so with that, let's now go ahead and have a look at some of these reports. I will first of all open a general ledger report, GL balances. And as I try to open this report, the first thing we see here is a selection page. It's actually a set of different filters where we can define what exactly we want to filter on the report. So fiscal year 2020 is the data for which I want to see the information and the numbers for. So I confirm that. And then it loads the data for multi-company database. So what I have as a demo database, it is a set of 3 different companies. Sage 100, you might have different companies as well. So all of those companies will be listed right here, just like this. Now, just to explain you the layout of this report a little bit and how these reports actually work. So everything that we see in these reports depends on the three shelves right here on the top. So groups, pivots, and columns. So depending on what fields we place here and in what order we actually place them, that will decide how we will be able to drill down on the reports, what columns we will see in this report. So to give you an example, we have company code as the first field. So we have all the company codes listed here. I can go ahead and drill down on one of these, let's say ABX, which will give me the fiscal year, since fiscal years is the next field. Then I can further drill down on fiscal year to see fiscal periods and all the way to the account codes. We can also drill down to the raw level details such as the descriptions, the dates, the postings, or the other journal entries or the journal numbers. All of that raw level details can also be accessed through these reports as we drill down further. On the other end of this report, we see all the metrics such as the ending balance, credit, debit, and beginning balance. Now, this is a pre-built existing template for you to begin reporting on the data that you have in Sage 100, but you could also very easily slice and dice these reports. So for example, if I want to bring in my fiscal periods as the first field, it will quickly change the layout of this report. And perhaps if I want to see company codes kept side by side, I can bring the company code, put that in the pivots, and then I can see the individual postings for each company for each period. So all the periods are right here. And then each company has its own major column with the sub-columns such as all the metrics right here. Another kind of integration that is possible with these reports is that we have the ability to now integrate the images and hyperlinks within these reports as well. So for that, I will open a basic sales report, which is the invoice by customer and product, where we will see that integration in action. All right, so in this report, we have 3 levels of grouping: year, which is drilled down to the customer codes. And then as I drill down on one of these customer codes, I can see the products which were sold to them. So what we see right here is right next to the description of these products, we can also see their images. We can hover onto these, enlarge them, and clearly see the data that the information about the product that we want to see. Could be very useful if you are a product-based company, if you're creating or manufacturing multiple products. And right next to that is also a hyperlink, which can be configured in these worksheets, which will either take you directly into the ERP system, or you could also connect to a third-party application outside of Sage 100. It could be a Google search, it could be a FedEx tracking system for the packages, and any of the other applications which can support this kind of technology. We will be able to include that hyperlink within these reports and make you jump directly from these worksheets to the other applications. Another kind of integration that we see right here, which is not really the integration, but a very interesting feature here, is the conditional formatting on these reports. So since this is a sales report, we are looking at margin percentage as one of the most important KPIs. So for this, in the last column here, margin percentage, I have set up 3 different kinds of business rules. So to give you an example here, if I go into column formatting, we can see the 3 business rules set up here. So for example, if the margin percentage is greater than or equal to 50%, I have set it up to be seen it as green in color with the background and a thumbs up sign. We can set up multiple rules like these, and it's very easy to set them up. We pick the column on which we want to operate or set this business rule on. We can compare that against a constant value that we define by ourselves. We can also compare it against a column within this report, or even a global variable which exists within SCI. And then of course we can go and pick an icon of our choice, pick a background color, and finally set the business rule. And no matter how we slice and dice this report, so for example, in this report, I would like to bring in the quarters dimension. So that's another thing which I would like to bring here, that as we see in this report, and we want to bring in new dimensions or measures into this report. So all of them actually exist in the toolbar here. And one of the tools is the dimensions and measures, which consists of set of different dimensions and calculated fields, which are called measures right here. We can easily go and grab them and simply drag and drop them into the fields right here to see them as a part of our reports. So in this example, I was mentioning that I wanted to bring the quarters. So I go into time dimension and I pick quarter and I simply drag and drop that in the pivots. And the next thing we will see here, that our sales report will now be shown as quarter by quarter, where each quarter is kept right next to each other. And the conditional formatting that we applied also remains very much intact throughout the report. Then comes the sharing and distribution side of this report. So let's say my report looks great, the coloring is great. We can also pick different themes here. So each worksheet and report and graph and chart, they all come with their own aesthetic worksheet properties where we can go and pick a different theme of our choice and so on. For me, it looks pretty good. And now the next thing I want to do is to go ahead and share that with my colleagues. So we have one of the options here, which is called sharing, and it comes with a bunch of different tools. So we can export these reports in multiple formats, which could be PDF, Excel, HTML, CSV, the one that you prefer, you can pick that. We can also send a comment on these reports, which takes a screenshot of the exact same report and then allows us to pick the marker and annotate on anything that needs attention and should be shared with our colleagues. So I can annotate on that, send an email, and the exact remark appears right here, which will be sent out. But one of the most important and useful features here in the sharing is that we can subscribe to these reports based on the schedule that we set for ourselves. So I will show you a more advanced side about scheduling these reports. So here, what we can do, we can, first of all, choose the action on how we would like to receive these reports when we try to subscribe to them, whether by email or simply getting them saved on the network drive. If that's the case, this is where we provide the network path and the reports will be shared and saved there on a regular basis. We can also choose who should be the owner of this report, whether it will be the admin or the sales manager or the accounts manager. That's where we can select that. And then we can also create a bundle of different reports put together into one format. It could be a PDF format, it could be a Word format, HTML, and so on, depending on what you prefer. But we could create a reporting pack by bundling together different reports. Now, if I want to create a reporting pack, let's say for financial reports, I type in finance, and then it shows us all the different existing reports for finance. I can pick and choose the ones that I would like to include. And if there are any of the sales reports too, we can create a mix match of the reports as well. And not just the reports, if you have any visuals like a graphs or charts, they could also be very easily brought into this report, in the reporting pack. Further, if we have any reports sitting in Excel, we have the option to include them too. And then finally, just add some aesthetic touch to these reporting packs which will be sent out. So giving it a name, add a cover page to that, which gives you the ability to add your company logos in here, add a more formal description with the text field, which is available right here, and then also add the tables of contents, which will list all these 4 reports in that table. Finally, we then choose the users who should be receiving this report. This could be the individual users, or it could also be a set of different users with the same security settings, with the same ability to see certain columns or certain rows in your worksheets. So that security setting can be applied to different groups, and then these reports will be sent out accordingly. And finally, set the schedule. So here we have the scheduler where we can select how often we would like to receive these reports. So if we go weekly, 9 a.m. on every Monday and every Wednesday of the week. So that's the schedule, for example, that I set here. And once I save it, SCI will then schedule it on a regular basis, make sure that the reports are received in the inbox or stored in the location defined on a regular basis without us actually coming into the software and doing it manually. We can also set the conditions on these reports, and depending on the metrics that we define, the reports will be sent out as notifications for us. And a good example of this could be keeping a very close eye on your stock levels. So if the stock levels for the inventory, if they fall below a certain level, and if we have defined that as a condition, then SCI will be sending us out a worksheet along with the notification about the depletion of the stock levels. So we can go ahead and be proactive about it and reorder the stock levels. So that kind of those kinds of conditions can definitely be sent and set up here in the conditions tab. So that's about the sharing and distribution of these reports, and not just the reports, it could also be applicable to the dashboards, and we will see that in a moment. Next thing is that so far what we have seen is that we have seen these reports with mere drill down abilities, filtering abilities, of course, if you want to filter on few companies. Let's say here, if I go in NA and I want to only see the NA companies, I can select all of these NA ones and add them to the filter. And then the next time report loads, it will only show me the NA companies. So filtering abilities, the drilling down abilities, so that's all we have seen so far. Now, what we can further do is that we can also transform these reports with these numbers into something more visual. And for that, we have one of the tools, which is called the view type. Now, once I click on that, SCI gives me the options, in fact, over 100 different views from where I can pick and choose what exactly visualization I would like to convert this worksheet into. So we could pick anything from a bar chart, line chart, worksheet. We have two different kinds of maps, Google Maps and the vector maps for the other countries here. And some more advanced charts such as combination, financial, polar, radar charts. So depending on your needs, you can come here and pick the one that you prefer to see your data as. So I'll go and pick a bar chart, which will convert all the data in the report that we were looking before and convert that into this bar chart. And the fields that we had in the report, which were in groups, pivots, and columns, remain very much the same here. And we still have the ability to slice and dice these graphs and charts as well, just like the worksheets. So if I want to bring in my quarters back into the groups, I can simply swap that. I can remove some of the fields here to focus only on perhaps quantities sold in this report or this graph. And then I can even drill down further to see more details. So these were all the different customers to which we sold in year 2018, which is shown to us by these filters at the bottom. If this looks good, we could very easily go and save the changes. So I will go ahead and save this and give it a name. We can also pick if we would like to see any selection page or a set of filters before this view actually loads. I'll keep it as none for this example and finally confirm. And the next time this would load, it will be placed exactly under the same data model from where we started, right here, and it will open the same way we left it. Now, talking about the views and seeing how easy it is to transform these worksheets into these graphs and charts, that brings me to the next tab right here, which is the dashboards. Now, dashboards, just like the worksheets that we saw, we have out-of-the-box dashboards tailored to the ERP systems, Sage 100, and also the ones which come along with universal data models. So these are role-based dashboards with industry standard KPIs. So some of them are listed right here. So I'll go ahead and open some of these. So I'm opening a financial dashboard, a CFO dashboard here, which is a combination of all the different graphs and charts put together to give us the full story of the business. So here we have all these KPIs like gross margin, cash to cash cycle, leverage, profitability. And it's not just a pretty image to look at, because we can, in fact, talk to this dashboard by changing the different options here. On the top, we have the filtering panel from where we can go and pick a different dimension. Let's say a fiscal period. I want to filter it on fiscal period 5. I apply that filter and it changes everything on this dashboard accordingly. And also these dashboards, since although they are beautiful and they come out of the box and give us a very good starting point, but we still have the ability to slice and dice these dashboards, change and customize the look of these dashboards, very much like the worksheets. So with each dashboard, we have added dashboard option, clicking on which I can see all these graphs and charts in their own little windows, which allows me to resize these views, delete them, or even bring in the new graphs and charts directly by simply dragging and dropping them into the dashboard. So remember the invoice by customer and product demo chart that we created? I'm simply dragging and dropping it into this dashboard. And then as we see now, it becomes very much a part of this dashboard. And as we exit the edit mode, here's the final view of this dashboard. Some of the other charts here on the side of sales, I will open sales summarized dashboard. So here we will be looking at the month-to-month growth over the periods, where we have this chart with blue bars telling us the actual amounts, whereas the green ones will tell us the invoice amount from the last year. So we are comparing the 2 years performance together. And there's a spline which goes over the top, which tells us the month-to-month growth over the time. Right below that is a Google map. We can zoom into the map and see these bubbles on this map. And clicking on these bubbles will tell us the information. So who is the client in Chicago who bought the amount, who bought the products for this particular amount from us, and what was the customer ID? So this is NA008. If I want to have more details about this client, then we have the ability to link these dashboards directly to the worksheets which have further details to provide to us. So let's say I want to know more about this customer ID. I link this to any of the existing worksheets within SCI. And then let's say it's sales invoice analysis. I go into actual versus last month and then link to this worksheet. Now, it just made us jump directly from that view here in the dashboard into this worksheet, filtering on the exact same customer ID, NA008, and now we have the full access to the whole history of the sales to this customer. So that way, it's very easy to jump and investigate further into the data by trending some of the spots in these dashboards. Now, talking about some of the advanced capabilities of SCI, like Olivia mentioned, we have the ability to create forecasts within SCI as well. So one of the data models which exists within sales for UDM is called the forecast data entry, which is right here. And it allows us to create the forecasts by quarter, by month, or by week. So we can go up to that level. And I have something created by month, for example. And to give you a quick overview of how the work actually flows here. So we could say a user comes in and creates a forecast, and the way they will create the forecast is that they will provide a config ID, give it a name, and then choose what kind of year they would like to pick the data from, whether it's a fiscal year or calendar year, and what kind of forecast they will be creating, whether it'll be based on the amount or whether it'll be based on the quantity. So we pick one of these. We pick the reference year from where the original data will be picked. Let's say it is 2018. And then we define the percentage increase or decrease which we are expecting in our forecast. So let's say if we are expecting a 5% increase, we define that as an integer here and generate the SQL Server query. Now, what would that do? That will take all the data from 2018 and increase it by 5% to give us the new forecast amount. And something that I have already created here to show us here is this forecast name 2021, revision number 1. And as we now will see, there is a forecast worksheet which has now just opened. So 2021, the fiscal year for which I created the forecast, that's actually the forecast name, revision number, and here is a forecast worksheet. Now, the way in which this worksheet is slightly different from all the other worksheets that we saw so far is that this allows us to even manually go ahead and tweak in the numbers on each individual cell on this worksheet. So we have period N all the way to period N plus 11. This is in fact the forecast increase which has been created using the reference year data. And then I can go and change the amount right here on this worksheet manually. So if I want to change 2,465 amount to 5,500, I'm enter that amount, I hit enter, it saves that amount. It also affects the totals row on the top, depending on the split by ratio or the rule that we have defined to calculate the totals on the top. And then this way, it allows us not only to create the forecast generally by defining our increase, but we can then further come into this worksheets and manually tweak in the numbers that need some fix. And once that is done, the changes are automatically saved since it is auto save mode, which is activated for this worksheet. And then we can go back into the dashboards and then have access to these forecast dashboards where we can compare the sales versus the actuals versus the forecast numbers. So if I go in right here, here's a list of all the forecast dashboards which are available for us. I'll open one of these. So here we will see the actuals for the customers, for the products. Here we have the sales reps and the way they are differentiated from the forecast that we created. The forecast name is right here in one of the filtering panels on the top, which was pre-loaded and pre-built here. And then the blue bars tell us the actual amount, whereas the red slots here right next to them show us the forecast amount. So for some of the products which we are doing pretty well, we are almost reaching the forecast amount, and some of them we have already surpassed. So we are doing pretty good, which was very clear from this chart right here. We can also change the cutoff period on the top, which is one of the filtering panels, and we can pick a different cutoff period, apply that, and here in this graph, for example, we can see the first 6 months will show us the actuals, while the remaining ones in the lighter shade of the blue will show us the forecast amount. So that way we can also compare the actuals versus the forecast. All right, so we saw a few examples of the dashboards which we can have access to. And even if we want to create something, despite the fact that so many of them are already available, nothing stops us from creating our own dashboards as well. I'll now quickly take a moment to also show you how easy it is to create your reports on your own, if it comes to that. So for that, we go into the data model. Let's say if I want to create a report on finance, a trial balance report, I go and pick a data model of my choice, right click on that, and click on New View. Now, this looks very familiar. It shows us the list of different visualizations from where we could pick what exactly we want to see the data as. I will pick the worksheet. And now what we will see next is an interface where it gives us all the columns and the grouping levels, which we can simply pick from these lists. So for the columns, to build a trial balance report, what I would need is the opening balance. So I type that in, it shows up. I will also need debit. Debit is right here, credit, and the ending balance. So I chose these fields here. I click OK. Ending balance did not show up, and now it is there. And then further we go and pick the grouping levels. Now grouping levels for this report, I would like to include fiscal year, fiscal period, and account code. And that's it. We pick the fields that we want to see in the report, confirm that, and what we will see next is a brand new report, a trial balance report, which has been created for us. So here are the grouping levels. I can go and any one of these 2019, for example, as a year, filter on that to see the fiscal period, and then the account codes. So we can see the individual postings for each account in this report. So that's how easy it is to create your own reports by going and picking the data model of your choice, selecting the view of your choice, and even the fields that you would like to see. I would like to show you the last thing on the web application, which is the reporting tree, which is one of the latest features which has been added in SCI to allow you to report and filter on the data if you have a company which has multiple sites, which has multiple operations in multiple countries, or within the same country, multiple sites, for example. So that could be something you could find very useful. So here is, for example, an income statement report. And we have a reporting tree, which has been designed in a way to show us the consolidated data for the whole company. So that's the consolidated report. Then I can further go into the regions where the company has its operations, let's say in North America. Within North America, I can either see a global view of North America as the numbers, or I can even further go into the company codes. Let's say NA20, so that will show me the data for NA20. And further, even in NA20, I can go down to the site levels too and see the report very specific to that particular site. So that's a new feature which has been added to facilitate the filtering on these reports by simply clicking on these the hierarchical levels to allow you to have access to the data in an instant by simply clicking on these levels here. All right, so that is the reporting tree feature that I definitely wanted to show you. And some of the other reports which exist in finance are the AP and AR as well. So we have accounts payable and accounts receivable. And something very interesting about these reports is that they come with the aging buckets where we can easily spot which of the customers, for example, in the case of accounts receivable, have not paid us and how much time it has elapsed. So if I want to see which customers have not paid us, this is the customer ID field. I can simply drag and drop that as my first field. And now here's a list of all the different customers. And on the other side, I can see these aging buckets where I can clearly see which of the customers have not paid us and how much time it has elapsed. So might be the most crucial situations will be the customers who have not paid and over 90 days. So that's the column which will show us that. I can further see, okay, so that was actually distribution to Tuxedo, which has not paid us, for example. And then we can further link this again to a particular worksheet which will tell us more about this customer, the past sales, the history of the sales with this client, and so on. All right, so that is everything that I wanted to talk about in the web application of SCI and everything that it has to offer. Of course, I would not be able to show you all the different reports which come out of the box, but I hope that you get a good idea that there's a lot which is offered that you can have access to have a very good starting point when it comes to reporting in SCI. Now, further, I would like to switch to the second platform of SCI, which is called the Excel Addin. And here are some of the sample reports, which I would like to begin with showing you some of these. So financial analysis, income statement, trial balance, balance sheet, financial dashboard. So mostly financial reports, but not certainly limited to only financial reports that you could create. You could also bring in your sales data and then report on that using the Excel add-in feature as well. So of course, we have a beautiful user-friendly and very intuitive web application, but I'm sure there are users who are more comfortable using an Excel and they love creating reports in Excel. So we have this platform for those users as well. And all of these reports have actually been created using the add-ins button here, which is the addition on this ribbon, which comes when SEI is installed on your premises. And then we have over 25 different tools which we can use to create these reports. So we can use the data extraction, which talks directly to the SQL Server or your database system, and it will extract the dimensions and fields directly into this worksheet. And as you will see, when I click on any one of these cells right here, we can see a big formula here in the formula bar. Now, nobody actually wrote down this formula manually, since that is actually done with the help of the formula wizard. Now, when I click on formula wizard, which is specific to this particular cell here, we will see the different selections which have been already made here. So we pick the data model GL detail transaction for that. The field is the ledger posting, which has been selected, and also the operation. Right here is a filtering panel, which is a different layout of that. But here, this is where you can define where's the fiscal year or fiscal period is coming from. So applying those filters, and it does the calculation of this particular amount in the cell for us. So we extract the data, we create these calculations with the help of the formula wizard, and then further we can do a formula drill down on these reports as well. So for that, let's me quickly go in the formula drill down. Specific fields, we can choose all the fields that we might want to include in the formula drill down, or very specific fields, which could be the ones right here, for example. If I add these, click OK. And the next thing that we see right here is that we picked this cell and did a formula drill down on that. And this was against account number 41100. Now in the new worksheet which has been created, it of course kept the 41100 as the account code for which it has done a formula drill down for us. And these are all the specific fields that I chose to see the postings. We can also create duplicate copies of these reports by spreading them across multiple fiscal periods or cost centers or company codes. So that is possible with the help of Duplicator. So if I quickly show you that, we'll see GL transactions, fiscal period, and then here I can select for how many fiscal periods I want to create a similar looking report with the same formatting and layout, but of course the different numbers for each fiscal period. So I click OK, and then it then creates 6 new spreadsheets for us for the income statement report here, all of them showing a different amount of data. All right, so that is everything that I wanted to show you today, and there I will like to conclude the presentation, and now we can open the floor for your questions.
Thanks, Jazz.
You're very welcome.
Okay, so Alec, I'm not sure if there's any questions in the chat, or we want to open the lines.
Yeah, I can't open the lines. Yes, I did notify if anybody wanted to ask a question. There's a little Q&A feature to type your question in there, but we did not receive any. So.
Okay, perfect. So I'll go ahead and just share back my screen. Perfect. Let me know if you guys can see it.
Yep, I can see it.
Perfect. So we'll just conclude quickly with why SEI. Of course, the seamless integration to Sage, the connectivity, the templates that we deliver out of the box. Like I said before, the ROI is very quick because of that. It's also easy to implement and learn. Empowering all users, whether you're more technical or more of an end user. A lot of the stuff that Jazz just did was more end user oriented. So, just dragging and dropping things around, using filters, so on and so forth. Very easy to do. The whole goal here is to give you the information and your colleagues the information you need to make better decisions on real-time, accurate information, essentially. Reduces complexities and costs of, maybe what you're doing today is very manual, very timely. Maybe you're having performance issues with reports, SEI is really geared to deal with, performance as well as, reducing those complexities. And at the end of the day, it helps increase company-wide productivity by all of its various features that will help you analyze and report and access, of course, your information. So I'll leave it at that. This is just a couple of quotes on what our customers are saying. I won't read them out, but instead we'll see. I noticed there's something in the chat, but I'm not sure if that's kind of like among us or if that's customers putting in their questions. But I don't know if we want to, because there aren't too many people, open the lines just to see if there are any questions.
Yeah, we don't have the ability for them to chime in via the phone system.
Okay, sorry about that.
Feature. Yep.
Okay, perfect. So we'll give it a few minutes for the Q&A. All right, so I think if there are no questions, we will give everybody back a few minutes of their day, and just want to thank everybody very much. Want to thank NewGen for having us on today as well, and I hope that everybody enjoyed the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.